Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we have discussed about these ideas on Islamic concept of existence and consciousness, which I have given you an overview of how we can link quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and the idea of the traditional idea of Islam, especially if you read this book, Prolegoma to the Metaphysics of Islam by Professor Said Naqib Al-Atas. Alright, there's a lot of ideas that actually, whatever we talk about quantum physics, this idea, even though using traditional language, they have been able to understand this, of the nature of Allah in the way of its attributive aspect. Alright, and how and why it is Allah has designed this universe this way, and how we can actually realize the grandeur and the greatness of Allah, and how we can link ourselves to the love of Allah through our heart. Okay, our spiritual, emotional, mental self, and how consciousness is linked to all realm of nature. So from this we can then develop another idea which I want to just discuss with you. That is the idea or nature of existence and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very important because if we look at the form of Islam today, if we study Islam, we have three levels that we have to actually develop. That is, if we study Islam, we have our Islam, we have our Iman, and we have our Ihsan. Okay, this is the Islam is the form, all the forms, all right? Our ibadah, our whatever that we need to do, all right? That forms the basis, which is true, all right? Then we have the Iman, this is Tawheed. And then Ihsan is love. Okay, this is very important because if we look at Islam today, we have an Islam that is based on forms. And unfortunately, we have so many so-called inverted comma ustaz or scholars, each bringing a worldview that is contradictory to each other, but it is basically the branches, the small things. It is not the form of Aqidah, but it's the form of ibadah, or a form of doing this, doing that. You know, it's just small things in which they make it a big, huge problem, and then they have a lot of arguments over it, arguing. So we are now, in a way, we are going through a phase where we have this form now become fake focus. So Islam become a religion that is focused on fiqh. You talk about fiqh and fiqh and fiqh and fiqh, and I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me, I call you a kafir, and that is what is happening to the Muslim world. And this Islam of form is gradually eating away the idealism of Islam, because you are not talking about the Tawheed also. Just, you know, if you do this, you go to hell. You do this, you get this pahala so much, you know, the thawab and then all that. But have you gone through lectures by these teachers? They'll read a book and they'll read a certain dua. Okay, if you read this dua seven times every day, you know, for so many, you will get this barakah. But that very ustaz who's saying that he himself is not practicing it. So they bring so many practices, odd, fringe practices, and then they make themselves popular. I'm saying this very frankly. I'm seeing this Islam of forms that fit focus become a way of divide and rule. So who will rule? It will be this so-called ulama who is an expert in fiqh against another ulama who is another expert in fiqh, and they will just go through whether it is the YouTube or the internet or whatever means that they have. They propagate their idea, and then the worst thing is some of them cannot because of their sheer arrogance, they call people kafir. So you have this group of takfir, all right? If you don't follow them, for example, you follow a Sufi school, oh, you are a kafir. Or not a kafir, you are ahlul bid'ah. Or you follow Imam Shafi'i, no, we cannot, or you follow Imam. This is where they start digging into their own self-destruction. And I feel sad because this Islam of form will then turn away the younger generation. The younger generation of Muslims cannot be based on the Islam of fear. So this leads to what I call the Islam of fear. Why? They'll always tell you, you do something, you'll go to hell. So the idea is always hell. Everything that you do is always going back to hell. And this is very, very sad, because if that happened, it will happen exactly what happened to the Christian churches. If you go to Europe, there are so many churches, thousands and thousands of them, no services. And I haven't been to one place where they have this church, beautiful church, so nice. And they put a signboard out there, all are welcome, regardless of any religion, come and meditate in our church. You know, there's nobody there. You go inside, you look inside, yeah, there's 1, 2 or 3 old people sitting down there, but it's such beautiful church, such beautiful music, but nobody. And in America, there's so many thousands, they say more than 10,000 churches that are empty. You build beautiful churches, no congregation. But I can telling you, I can see the signs this happening to Islam. Maybe you say that I'm biased. For example, I come from Malaysia. You look at our mosques, who are there in the mosques? It's the old people, these people who are dying. Where are the young people? They're not there. Because when they go for the lectures, they're always being told, you go to hell. Everything that you do, you go to hell. So they got fed up. So that idea of coercion, the idea of instilling fear, the idea of giving them no hope, are turning away the young people. So frankly, I think the mosques in Malaysia now are for the old people. The young people, they're not coming to the mosques. One more generation, Wallahu alam, may Allah save us. Because if there's no replacement, then we'll end up having like exactly the Christian religion. You build beautiful buildings, there'll be nobody to reflect on the grandeur of Allah, to worship Allah. So this is sad, this I'm telling you, this Islam of forms, I'm not saying that we discard the forms. We must balance the forms with, most important, Tawheed, the idea of Tawheed. And this idea of Tawheed within the framework of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we have to train our people that this idea of Tawheed, that God is existent and valid, is not a idea, it's just not an idea, it is a reality, it is the haqq, the truth. That's why Allah tells us to bring our level from our iman, first iman, ilmul yaqeen, we must have the ilm. So this ilm of Tawheed is very important. So we have iman, ilmul yaqeen. Then we see it, ainul yaqeen. And then we have to have the next level at ihsan, haqqul yaqeen. This is a level of progression that we have to develop among ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is, if we're going to look into the nature of existence and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by these ancient scholars, this is summarized by our professor Syed Naqib Alatas. I'm just going to read you a few paragraphs just to give you the idea of the grandeur of the beauty of the teachings. All right. So this is about existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Existence as a reality and not as a concept is the very essence of the ultimate reality, and this ultimate reality is Allah. So we are talking about this existence is a reality, is not a scientific proof, or it's just a concept, but it's the ultimate reality. Considered in his very essence, he is known only to himself, for he is as he is himself and is unconditionally transcendent. Okay. In view of this, the nature of the ultimate reality as non-conditioned by any condition whatsoever, strictly speaking, not conditioned even by his transcendence, and it can never be accessible to our knowledge and cognition and remain eternally unknown and unknowable except to himself. And what is it then? But the reality of existence by virtue of being what it is, being itself manifest and bringing everything else into manifestation. This must be posited as possessing the degree of maratib, or self-manifestation. Otherwise, nothing would ever been manifested as existing. And moreover, it is the degree of self-concealment. Also, we would would never be known to be unknowable. Thus, in spite of this utter concealment, that is the concealment of the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's an aspect of it which inclines towards self-manifestation. When we said, alluding to the sacred tradition, I was the hidden treasure, I love to be known, so I created the creation, that I might be known. That the hidden treasure refers to the self-concealing aspect of the ultimate reality, that is Allah, and the loving to be known already implies a disposition pointing towards a self-revealing aspect. In this aspect, he is already swayed, as it were, by love, hubb, which is the principal ontological movement that become manifested in creation. Creation become the edification of what is at once true and real, is the existentializing act of the self-manifesting aspect of the ultimate reality, that is Allah, and in his creative aspect, he is called by the name significance at once the truth and the real, al-haq. Okay, so this is just a short paragraph which I take from this book, but here the focus is on Tawheed, knowing Allah from the perspective of knowledge, and knowing Ihsan. Alright, because by the very nature, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he created us, he has the love for us, and his love for us is manifested in the way that is so unlimited. There is no limit to the love of Allah. That's why his forgiveness, his maghfirah, his mercy, his compassion, his love is the ultimate. So this was the idea, that was this ihsan form of Islam, is what all our great scholars talking. You talk about Al-Imam Ghazali, he talk about the paramount purpose of life is the love of Allah, and to receive the love of Allah and the love of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his kinfolks, his sahabas, and all the others who has brought this love to us. If you look at Maulana Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, you see his poetry of love. He's not talking about love of human being, of his infinite love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was the deen that carried through, that attracted millions and millions and millions of people towards this deen of Islam. It is not the deen of form, it is a deen of love. So what is important when we frame up this Islamic psychology, we must understand that we must transcend this Islam of form, move towards the Islam of Tawheed, and finally develop an Islam of love. So Islamic psychology, the framework for even the therapeutic aspects, positive Islamic psychology, the positive Islamic cognitive behavior therapy and all that must be focused on ihsan. And this ihsan must be based on understanding the true nature of the love of, immense love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us as his creator, as his Caliph on this earth, and he has ordained upon us to be his sincere servant and slave, to understand Tawheed, and then move forward to strive to be good, to help others to be good, and make this world good. And inshallah, we fulfill our role and purpose to live in this mundane physical world, to us to go back, as Maulana Rumi says, to the source of everything that we yearn for, that will be the final destination for every human being. So we hope and we seek the grace, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us from fear to love, from hell to heaven. All right, this is the reality that we seek, and inshallah, if we're able to develop this idea, move away from the arguments of forms, understand the deen to iman and tawheed, develop ihsan to the highest level, this deen will be the deen of greatness in the 21st century, and inshallah that shall be a reality by the grace and the will of Allah.